You see, I own you, little Pisces. You are my property, to do with as I please. But we don't have to do everything tonight, hell. We got 3 to 5.
Yeah, it seems like that scene from the movie Let's Go to Prison could be the reality for many a MAGA cult member, and they seem to know it. This is Donald Trump's former campaign chief, Steve Bannon, who last night sent MAGA into an absolute panicked frenzy by publicly admitting to them that if they lose the midterms and in 2028, some people in that room, and including Bannon himself, were going to be going to prison. Something Bannon is all too familiar with, having served 4 months in federal prison after he defied the House's January 6 committee subpoena. And while the lock them up crowd getting locked up has happened and can and very much should happen again in the future, as we'll see in this video, it is not a guarantee, because as we've already seen and as we'll see here, there is nothing more dangerous than a bunch of violent MAGA cultists who feel like they're backed into a corner.
And I will tell you right now, as God is my witness, if we lose the midterms and we lose 2028, some in this room are going to prison, myself included. They're not going to stop. They're getting more and more and more radical. And we have to counter that. And what do we have to counter it with? We have to counter it with more action, more intense action, more urgency. We're burning daylight. If you look across every aspect of this, we have to codify what President Trump has done by executive order. Right? We have to codify it. And people say, well, they're just going to be messing bills and pass Senate. We got to put aside these structural barriers and get on with it. President Trump today gave to the Senate when they came over for breakfast. Even Lindsey Graham, some of the guys that liked, and some of these institutions, I understand. This is a very tough decision to make. And you're going to see some people in the conservative movement that not in a million years, because I talked to them today, quite frankly, I had Hawley on the show this morning. Josh Hawley, and he's talking about it, and I'm trying to play the institution. Well, they called me up this afternoon and said, let's go through the 10 reasons we need to do it, and these are heavy hitters on what I would call the constitutional, limited government constitutionalist in our movement. And they're about to come out over the next couple of days and make this argument because it said, look, we have to understand that if we don't take this to the maximum, a maximalist strategy now with a sense of urgency, and in doing this, seize the institutions. If we don't do that now, we're going to lose this chance forever because you're never going to have another Trump, right? You're just not going to have it.
So, okay, the good news. In clear speak, Republicans have no plans to govern. They just want to stay out of prison, and most of them in Trump's sphere, including the many violent or white-collar criminals that he's pardoned before, have been and are currently being so criminal that they deserve to be behind bars, which I don't think comes as a surprise to any of us. And that panic is spreading through MAGA like COVID getting treated by ivermectin.
MAGA Mike Johnson, the Republican Speaker of the House, is panicking on live TV. He knows the end is near. You're about to lose your job, MAGA Mike. Whether it's Donald Trump perhaps firing you soon, yeah, because you basically work for him at this point, or with the blue wave sweeping across the United States, the end is near for you at the midterms, MAGA Mike.
President Trump is on the ballot next fall. Because if we lose the majority, if the Republicans, the common sense people here who are doing the job for the American people, if we lose the majority in the House, and this radical element of the Democrat Party were able to take over, we've already seen that movie. They will try to end the Trump administration. He won't have 4 years, he'll have only 2, because they will move to impeach him probably on the first day of the new Congress in January 2027. And they will try to systematically unwind all the important reforms that we've done for the American people.
The only way any of these arguments make any sense is if you read directly through the lines and hear what they are actually saying, which is, we are protecting criminals and pedophiles at the expense of Americans and American democracy. We will attack the pillars, the foundations, the institutions of this country, the Constitution of this country, in order to remain in power so we do not have to be held accountable for our criminal negligence and criminal actions. Full fucking stop. And violent MAGA cultists have acted on these stupid arguments before. We saw it with January 6th. We see it with the uptick in right-wing violence. We've seen it with Trump's criminal pardons of insurrectionists and Binance CEOs that commit financial crimes. These people will get behind any bastardization of what they claim to believe in as long as it protects them. Why else do you think Steve Bannon would be able to sit here and so confidently, with the backing of MAGA, be able to say shit like this about Donald Trump being the president in 2028? The fact he can even say this with disregard to the Constitution is crazy enough, but it's almost even more insane that these people have such a thin grasp on reality that they think this bloated carcass is going to make it to 2028 in the first place.
He's going to get a third term. So Trump 28, Trump is going to be president in 28, and people just ought to get accommodated with that.
So what about the 22nd Amendment?
There's many different alternatives. At the appropriate time, we'll lay out what the plan is, but there's a plan. We had longer odds in 16 and longer odds in 24 than we got in 28. And President Trump will be the president of the United States, and the country needs him to be president of the United States. We have to finish what we started. Trump is a vehicle. I know this will drive you guys crazy, but he's a vehicle of divine providence. He's an instrument. He's very imperfect. He's not churchy, not particularly religious, but he's an instrument of divine will. And you can tell this of how he's pulled this off. We need him for at least one more term, right? And he'll get that in 28.
You're not driving me crazy. I'm trying to understand the coherence of the things you've just told me. On the one hand, you've said the Constitution is fit for purpose. Secondly, you've said that President Trump needs another term, even though the 22nd Amendment makes pretty clear that he cannot have another term.
Why does it make that clear?
Because he's on his second term already.
At some point in time, we will make sure we go through, Zanny, and define all those terms.
But you will be undermining the spirit of that amendment, even if you find some way around it.
If the American people, with the mechanisms we have, put Trump back in office, are the American people tearing up the Constitution? Would
Yes.
that be would the American people be going against the spirit of the Constitution, ma'am?
I think yes, actually, because I think what you will end up with is a populist justification for a quasi-dictatorship.
That's not true at all. Trump
That's what it sounds like.
Trump is a dictatorship. Did you just see the compromises he had to make on the big, beautiful bill? You see the compromises he has to do on everything, on accommodating Zelensky, on what President Trump. President Trump is nothing but a series of negotiations to kind of keep this thing rolling forward, where he's having trade-offs all the time.
Steve, you've just spent the last 20 minutes telling me we have to smash the other side. There's no room for debate. There's no room for compromise. We must smash them. And now you're telling me this is a negotiation. I mean, that's
no.
I guess that's why it seems to me some kind of tension there.
To me, that is the clearest example of MAGA just absolutely having this Stockholm syndrome, where Donald Trump is holding them hostage. His entire Republican Party is using their support to justify some of the most heinous atrocities against Democrats, against liberals, against brown people, against even maggots, as we've seen time and time again on this channel. And he's using their support to drain the only semblance of institutional government that we have and then fill it with an actual fucking swamp. He is pardoning criminals. His administration are criminals. He's gonna be a war criminal in Venezuela. And yet, in some sort of convoluted divine retribution providence bullshit that these people have made up in their minds and continue to follow so blindly, much like other things in their lives, they think that this is all for a righteous purpose. They think that being violent towards liberals is for a righteous purpose, and therefore it's justifiable. Therefore it's okay. They think their crimes are not crimes because the liberals think they're crimes under the factual reality of a judicial system that they don't have to believe in. It is utter bastardization of morality on a fundamental level that defies the typical constraints that we have as a civilized society, or at least kind of were. Because if they continue to attack the already weak and feeble institutions that they have diminished, like they say here, then it won't matter how much they fear being thrown into jail or how much they should be thrown into prison. It fucking won't happen. And unfortunately, that is exactly what we've seen thus far. So yes, should we celebrate the fact that they are panicking and the fact that they are coming to the realization that they're in trouble if they lose? 100%. But we cannot let that get in the way of making sure that they actually lose. Because otherwise, we are veering off a fucking cliff from which there is no return. And that is if we haven't already. So please, help us continue the fight. Join the Really American Resistance. Aid us in calling these things out. Do your part, your civic duty to go out and vote, to stay vocal, to keep the pressure on these people, and to keep the hope going in the community of people who actually have empathy and want to see justice served to some of the most heinous criminals in history. And even if for no reason other than pettiness, please do it so we can see Steve Bannon and the rest of the MAGA criminals be forced to give Eskimo kisses to Barry.
So for now, what say you just give Barry a little Eskimo kiss? Come on, Eskimo.
Thanks for watching, folks. For Really American, I'm Kenny Hesse. I'll see you guys in the next one.